resembled lotus flowers. He was decorated with Srivatsa jewels and yellow garments. With Srivatsa jewels and yellow garments. He was smiling with a beautiful face and was playing in the river Jamuna with great strength. But in spite of Krishna's beautiful features, Kalia felt great anger within his heart, and thus he grabbed Krishna with his mighty coils. Seeing the incredible way in which Krishna was enveloped in the coils of the serpent, the affectionate cowherd boys and other inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately became stunned, out of fear. They had dedicated everything to Krishna, their lives, property, affection, activities. Everything was for Krishna. And when they saw him in that condition, they became overwhelmed with fear and fell down to the ground. All the cows, bulls, and small calves became overwhelmed with grief, and they began to look at him with great anxiety. Out of fear, they could only cry in agony and stand erect on the bank, unable to help their beloved Krishna. While this scene was taking place on the bank of the Jamuna, there were ill omens manifest. The earth trembled, meteors fell from the sky, and the left side of men's bodies shivered. All these are indications of great immediate danger. Observing the inauspicious signs, the cowherd men, including Maharaj Nanda, became very anxious out of fear. At the same time, they were informed that Krishna had gone to the pasturing ground without his elder brother Balarama. As soon as Nanda and Yashoda and the cowherd men heard this news, they became even more anxious. Out of their great affection for Krishna, and being unaware of the extent of his potencies, they became overwhelmed with grief and anxiety because they had nothing dearer than Krishna, and because they had dedicated their everything, life, property, affection, mind, and activities to Krishna. Because of their great attachment for Krishna, they thought, "Today Krishna is surely going to be vanquished." All the inhabitants of Vrindavan came out of the village to see Krishna. The assembly consisted of children, old men, women, animals, and all living entities. They knew that Krishna was their only means of sustenance. While this was happening, Balarama, who is the master of all knowledge, stood there simply smiling. He knew how powerful his younger brother was, and there was no cause for anxiety when Krishna was fighting with an ordinary serpent of the material world. He did not, therefore, personally take any part in their sorrow. On the other hand, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, being disturbed, began to search out Krishna by following the impression of his footprints on the ground, and thus they moved hastily toward the bank of the Jamuna. Finally, by following the footprints marked with flag, bow, and conch shell, the inhabitants of Vrindavan arrived at the river bank and saw that all the cows and boys were weeping to behold Krishna enwrapped in the coils of the black serpent. Then they became still more overwhelmed with grief. While Balaram was smiling to see their lamentation, all the inhabitants of Rajbhumi merged into the ocean of grief because they thought that Krishna was finished. Although the residents of Vrindavan did not know much about Krishna, their love for him was beyond comparison. As soon as they saw that Krishna was in the river Jamuna, enveloped by the serpent Kalia, and that all the boys and cows were lamenting, they simply began to think of Krishna's friendship, his smiling face, his sweet words, and his dealings with them. Thinking of all these things, and seeing that their Krishna was now within the clutches of Kalia, they at once felt that the three worlds had become vacant. Lord Chaitanya also said that he was seeing the three worlds as vacant for want of Krishna. This is the highest stage of Krishna consciousness. Almost all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan had the highest ecstatic love for Krishna. When Mother Jashoda arrived, she wanted to enter the river Jamuna, and being checked, she fainted. Her friends, who were equally aggrieved, were shedding tears like torrents of rain or waves of the river. But in order to bring Mother Jashoda to consciousness, they began to speak loudly about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Mother Jashoda remained still, as if dead, because her consciousness was concentrated on the face of Krishna. Nanda and all the other cowherd men who had dedicated everything, including their lives, to Krishna, were ready to enter the waters of the Jamuna. But Lord Balarama checked them, because he was in perfect knowledge that there was no danger. For 2 hours Krishna remained like an ordinary child gripped in the coils of Kalia, but when he saw that all the inhabitants of Gokula, including his mother and father, the gopis, the boys, and the cows, were just on the point of death, and that they had no shelter for salvation from imminent death, Krishna immediately freed himself. He began to expand his body, and when the serpent tried to hold him, he felt a great strain. On account of the strain, his coils slackened, and he had no alternative but to let loose the personality of Godhead, Krishna, from his grasp. Kalia then became very angry, and his great hoods expanded. He exhaled poisonous fumes from his nostrils, his eyes blazed like fire, and flames issued from his mouth. The great serpent remained still for some time, looking at Krishna. Licking his lips with bifurcated tongues, the serpent looked at Krishna with double hoods, and his eyesight was full of poison. Krishna immediately pounced upon him, just as Garuda swoops upon a snake. Thus attacked, Kalia looked for an opportunity to bite him, but Krishna moved around him. As Krishna and Kalia moved in a circle, the serpent gradually became fatigued, and his strength seemed to diminish considerably. Krishna immediately pressed down the serpent's hoods and jumped up on them. The Lord's lotus feet became tinged with red from the rays of the jewels on the snake's hoods. Then he who is the original artist of all fine arts, such as dancing, began to dance upon the hoods of the serpent, although they were moving to and fro. Upon seeing this, the denizens of the upper planets showered flowers, beat drums, played different types of flutes, and sang various prayers and songs. In this way, all the denizens of heaven, such as the Gandharvas, Siddhas, and demigods, became very pleased. While Krishna was dancing on his hoods, Kalia tried to push him down with some of his other hoods. Kalia had about 100 hoods, but Krishna took control of them. He began to dash Kalia with his lotus feet, and this was more than the serpent could bear. Gradually, Kalia was reduced to struggling for his very life. He vomited all kinds of refuse and exhaled fire. While throwing up poisonous material from within, Kalia became reduced in his sinful situation. Out of great anger, he began to struggle for existence and tried to raise one of his hoods to kill the Lord. The Lord immediately captured that hood and subdued it by kicking it and dancing on it. It actually appeared as if the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu was being worshipped. The poisons emanating from the mouth of the serpent appeared to be like flower offerings. Kalia then began to vomit blood instead of poison. He was completely fatigued. His whole body appeared to be broken by the kicks of the Lord. Within his mind, however, he finally began to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he surrendered unto him. He realized that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the Master of everything. The wives of the serpent, known as the Naga Patnis, saw that their husband had been subdued by the Lord's kicking, and that he was almost at the point of death due to bearing the heavy burden of the Lord, within whose abdomen the whole universe remains. Kalia's wives prepared to worship the Lord, and in their haste their clothes, hair, and ornaments became disarrayed. They also surrendered unto the Supreme Lord and began to pray. They appeared before him, put forward their offspring, and anxiously offered respectful obeisances, falling down on the bank of the Jamuna. The Nagapatnis knew that Krishna is the shelter of all surrendered souls, and they desired to release their husband from the impending danger by pleasing the Lord with their prayers. The Nagapatnis began to offer their prayers, as follows. O dear Lord, you are equal to everyone. For you there is no distinction between your sons, friends, or enemies. Therefore, the punishment which you have so kindly offered to Kalia is exactly befitting. O Lord, you have descended especially for the purpose of annihilating all kinds of disturbing elements within the world, and because you are the absolute truth, there is no difference between your mercy and your punishment. We think, therefore, that this apparent punishment of Kalia is actually some benediction. We consider that your punishment is your great mercy upon us, because when you punish someone, it is to be understood that the reactions of his sinful activities are eradicated. It is already clear that this creature appearing in the body of a serpent must have been overburdened with all kinds of sin, otherwise how could he have the body of a serpent? Your dancing on his hoods has reduced all the sinful results of actions caused by his having this body of a serpent. It is therefore very auspicious that you have become angry and have punished him in this way. We are very much astonished to see how you have become so much pleased with this serpent, who evidently performed various religious activities in his past lives that pleased everyone. He must have undergone all kinds of penances and austerities, humbly honored others, and executed universal welfare activities for all living creatures. The Nagapatnis confirm that one cannot come in contact with Krishna without having executed pious activities in devotional service in his previous lives. As Lord Chaitanya advised in his Shikshashtaka, one has to execute devotional service by humbly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street, and not expecting honor for himself, but offering all kinds of honor to others. The Nagapatnis were astonished that although Kalia had the body of a serpent, as the result of grievous sinful activities, at the same time he was in contact with the Lord, to the extent that the Lord's lotus feet were touching his hoods. Certainly this was not the ordinary result of pious activities. These two contradictory facts astonished them. Thus they continued to pray, "O dear Lord, we are simply astonished to see that he is so fortunate as to have the dust of your lotus feet on his head. This is a fortune sought after by great saintly persons. Even the goddess of fortune underwent severe austerities just to have the blessing of the dust of your lotus feet. So how is it that Kalia is so easily getting this dust on his head? We have heard from authoritative sources that those who are blessed with the dust of your lotus feet do not care even for the highest post within the universe, namely the post of Lord Brahma, or the kingship of the heavenly planets, or the sovereignty of this planet. Nor do such persons desire to rule the planets above this earth, such as Siddhaloka. Nor do they aspire for the mystic powers achieved by the yoga process, nor do the pure devotees aspire for liberation by becoming one with you. My Lord, although he is born in a species of life which is fostered by the most abominable mode of material nature, accompanied with the quality of anger, this king of the serpents has achieved something very, very rare. Living entities who are wandering within this universe in different species of life can very easily achieve the greatest benediction only by your mercy. It is confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the living entities wandering within the universe in various species of life can get the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Krishna and the spiritual master, and thus their path of liberation can be cleared. The Nagapatnis continued, "We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, our dear Lord, because you are the supreme person who are living as the super-soul within every living entity. Although you are transcendental to the cosmic manifestation, everything is resting in you. You are the personified, indefatigable, eternal time." Or is it indefatigable? Indefatigable. Eternal time. The entire time force is existing in you, and you are therefore the seer and the embodiment of total time in the shape of past, present, and future, month, day, hour, moment, everything. In other words, O Lord, You can see perfectly all the activities happening in every moment, in every hour, in every day, in every month, in every year, past, present, and future. You are yourself the universal form, and yet you are different from this universe. You are simultaneously one with and different from the universe. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you. You are yourself the whole universe, and yet you are the creator of the whole universe. You are the superintendent and maintainer of this whole universe, and you are its original cause. Although you are present within this universe by your three qualitative incarnations, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvara, you are transcendental to the material creation. Although you are the cause of the appearance of all kinds of living entities, their senses, their lives, their minds, their intelligence, you are to be realized by your internal energy. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you, who are unlimited, finer than the finest, the center of all creation, and the knower of everything. Different varieties of philosophical speculators try to reach you. You are the ultimate goal of all philosophical efforts, and it is actually only you who are described by all philosophies and by different kinds of doctrines. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you, because you are the origin of all scripture and the source of knowledge. You are the root of all evidences, and you are the supreme person who can bestow upon us the supreme knowledge. You are the cause of all kinds of desires, and you are the cause of all kinds of satisfaction. You are the Vedas personified, therefore we offer you our respectful obeisances. O dear Lord, you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, and you are also the Supreme Enjoyer. You have now appeared as the son of Vasudeva, who is a manifestation of the state of pure goodness. You are the predominating deity of mind and intelligence, Aniruddha and Pradyumna, and you are the Lord of all Vaishnavas. By your expansion as the Chaturvyuha, namely Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Aniruddha, and Pradyumna, you are the cause of the development of mind and intelligence. By your activities only, the living entities become covered by forgetfulness or discover their real identity. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is sitting as the supersoul in everyone's heart, and due to his presence, the living entity either forgets himself or revives his original identity. We can partially understand that you are within our hearts as the witness of all our activities. But it is very difficult to appreciate your presence, although every one of us can do so to some extent. You are the supreme controller of both the material and spiritual energies. Therefore, you are the supreme leader, although you are different from this cosmic manifestation. You are the witness and creator, and the very ingredient of this cosmic manifestation. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Our dear Lord, in the matter of creating this cosmic manifestation, personally you have nothing to exert. By expanding your different kinds of energy, namely the mode of passion, the mode of goodness, and the mode of ignorance, you create, maintain, and annihilate this cosmic manifestation. As the controller of the entire time force, you simply glance over the material energy, thereby creating this universe and energizing the different modes of material nature which act differently in different creatures. No one can estimate, therefore, how your activities are going on within this world. Our dear Lord, although you have expanded into the three principal deities of this universe, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva, for creation, maintenance, and destruction, your appearance as Lord Vishnu is actually for the benediction of living creatures. Therefore, for those who are actually peaceful and who are aspiring after the supreme peace, worship of your peaceful appearance as Lord Vishnu is recommended. O Lord, we are submitting our prayers unto you. You can appreciate that this poor serpent is going to give up his life. You know that for us women, our husband is our life and everything. Therefore, we are praying unto you that you kindly excuse Kalia, our husband. Because if this serpent dies, then we shall be in great difficulty. Looking upon us only, please excuse this great offender. Our dear Lord, Every living creature is your offspring, and you maintain everyone. This serpent is also your offspring, and you can excuse him once, although he has offended you, undoubtedly without knowing your supremacy. We are praying that he may be excused this time, our dear Lord. We are offering our loving service unto you, because we are all eternal servitors of your Lordship. You can order us to do whatever you please. Every living being can be relieved from all kinds of despair if he agrees to abide by your orders. After the Nagapatnis submitted their prayers, Lord Krishna released Kalia from his punishment. Kalia was already unconscious from being struck by the Lord. Upon regaining consciousness and being released from the punishment, Kalia got back his life force and the working power of his senses. With folded hands, he immediately began to pray to the Supreme Lord Krishna. My dear Lord, I have been born in such a species that by nature...
Oh, should we break there?
Sounds good. It's very...
Not so long, actually. But maybe we take some thoughts. Well, it's all in technology. There's not much more to read, but maybe we take some thoughts or questions and then continue.
I had one thought. I've been going through Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati bhajans, and in the Atma Nivedana section, there's a beautiful bhajan. Atma samarpana gela bhiman nahi karubun charaka vidhan. And in this song, it almost feels like Bhaktivinoda Thakur is taking the position of a calf. And I think I mentioned it last year when we were on this chapter, but it comes to mind every time I think of Kalia, that the devotee, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying, he says, I will drink the water. Because in the pastime, Krishna sends, first the calves drink. You know, they, let's test the water. They're sort of the original animal test subjects. And then this prayer, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, I have such faith in you. I'm fully surrendered to you. I will drink the water. I will test it because I have faith that you will protect me. And I was just thinking how beautiful that is. That one with such surrender, such Atma Nivedana, can go forward so fearlessly in Krishna service. So, just a thought.
Hare Krishna. I wanted to ask Maharaj, we see how everybody in Vrindavan, he was like completely immersed in love of Krishna, and when they saw how Krishna is in this dangerous situation, they kind of start losing their life, and we also know that this is not because of material sentiments, but rather this is the influence of the spiritual energy. And it was explained that Balaram was not under the influence of this energy. So my first question would be, why everybody else and not him, being not influenced? And then my second question would be, in other pastime, Brahma Vimohana Liwa, there it's explained for some time he was also unconscious that actually Krishna took the form of the cows. So if you comment on this.
Why everyone was under the internal energy, but Balaram was unaffected, it seems. And yet in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, even Balaram was seemed bewildered. What's going on here? So of course, one thing is that this was the arrangement of Krishna's pastimes. Why is it like that? Because he arranges it like that. Of course, Balaram is super powerful. So while everyone else may be confused or bewildered, Lord Balaram's on the... he's Krishna, practically. Not practically, he is Krishna, just in a different feature. So he was unaffected. But if Krishna likes, then even Balaram will be bewildered. According to what serves Krishna's pastimes, according to what serves Krishna's pleasure, one may remember matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha. Anyone, maybe even Balaram, can be affected by the internal energy of Krishna in this way. Okay? Another thought from that section, several thoughts from that section. One is we see how the devotees are all in different relationships. Krishna's friends are there, calves are there, the parental devotees are there, gopis were there, they mentioned, but yeah, they're also. So everyone's in a different relationship with Krishna, but everyone's feeling that Krishna is their whole life. Krishna is their life and soul. It doesn't matter, this relationship, that relationship, but all of them are feeling that our life and soul is Krishna. And because Krishna was their life and soul, it's like they were going to lose their lives. Krishna's, of course, doing this. He's arranging this pastime just to increase everyone's love for him, to churn their love for him. So he's playing around with Kalia as if, or appearing to be just trapped in Kalia's coils and on the verge of death. And then all the Brajbasis are brought practically to the urge of death. Then Krishna bursts free and starts playing. So you can imagine how the emotions are being, intensified. On the one side, a complete grief that Krishna's our life and soul, now Krishna's going to die. And then shunyayatam jagat sarvam, everything appears empty. And then in the next moment, Krishna breaks free. He's dancing on the hoods of Kalia, performing heroic activities. So then how do they feel? So Krishna is arranging all of these pastimes in such a way as to just bring out these extraordinary emotions of love from the Brajbasis. And even grief for Krishna is a kind of taste. Even grief for Krishna is a kind of taste. So when we hear about even the grief of the Brajbasis, there's a kind of what should we say? An experience of a kind of loving sentiment for Krishna. These are called vyabhachari bhav, disturbing symptoms that come and go. The steady steady love may be love in friendship, love in parental feelings, love in conjugal feelings. But then there are emotions that come and go, fear, anxiety, and so on. All these sense of being stunned. These are described in Nectar of Devotion, and they contribute to the main feeling. So the parental, the friendly love of the cowherd boys is being intensified by these feelings of grief and so on. And similarly, the parental feelings are being intensified. Now, in a different way, it's a different kind of love, but it's all being intensified by these dealings of Krishna. And then when Krishna comes out, they're also feeling, oh, my friend is so great, oh, my child is so great. Different kinds of loving sentiments for Krishna are being expressed or brought forth. So it's so wonderful. And of course, the way Krishna does things artistically, dancing on such a platform, moving hoods, and demigods playing instruments, and that's ultimate performance art. Yeah, yeah. And then we have the picture of Kalia with being purified by being bashed by Krishna's lotus feet to the point of, again, being practically dead. There's various practically deads here. Krishna's practically dead, then the Brajbasis are practically dead. Now Kali is going to be practically dead. Yeah, yeah. But there's a lot of death in this. Death and near death. But by Krishna's mercy, he's being purified. All that poison that's built up within him is being vomited up. So he's becoming purified. Just like sometimes a child is sick and is vomiting. So that vomiting means he's getting better. Getting rid of all that, whatever it was, undigested junk. Because he ate, 14 times more than he was supposed to, whatever. So Kali is being purified. And then we'll come to his prayers next. But before we come to his prayers, the Nagapatni's prayers are there. And that's, we could be studying for weeks each of these prayers because they're so much philosophy, really. So much understanding about the personality of God. And you picture some ordinary fellow on the street who meets a book distributor and gets a Krishna book, and he reads these things, finds out that Krishna is the controller of the entire time force, that everything is going on within his transcendental form. And therefore Prabhupada said, even if he reads a few lines, how his life can be changed. His life can be changed. So these prayers are very significant, just hearing them, just reading them, speaking them would be so enlightening.
You just brought to my mind, right before the prayer, I think when it was describing the residents of Vrindavan coming to Jamuna, it says that although they didn't know much about Krishna, and then the Nagapatnis start speaking, they know so much about Krishna. And there's this sort of contrast which came to my mind because we were just discussing the verse Anandamar speaking to Uddhava, and Krishna sent Uddhava just to sort of show him, although in Bhagavatamrita we see Uddhava as one of the greatest devotees, just the gulf between him and the Brajvasis. And that disparity becomes abundantly clear between the Nagapatnis and the Brajvasis. When you put them next to each other, you just see, clearly the Nagapatnis are amazing devotees. And yet compared to the Brajvasis who are, faint, and Yashoda's just holding the image of Krishna's face in her mind as she's practically leaving. I was wondering if you could, just speak to that difference when you get devotees of different calibers in the same place. How these, I'm trying to think how to word it. How these combinations are somehow still compatible, even though, like, you don't see them associating with each other. You would think, these Nagapatnis are great devotees, the Brajvasis are great devotees. They'd want each other's sangha, but it kind of seems like they don't belong together because they're different
Everything's in
classes.
the proper place. We hear elsewhere, going back to the Damodar Lila, that the Krishna pulled down the Arjun trees and the Nalakuvira and Manigriva offered prayers to the Lord. Again, deep philosophical prayers, extolling the personality of Godhead and praising his transcendental nature. And the cowherd boys, Krishna's little cowherd friends, were there. And so they later reported the incident that Krishna pulled on the grinding mortar, and the trees fell topsy-turvy, and then two brilliant men came out of the trees and said something to Krishna. That was their report. So these are compatible manifestations. The Nanda Yashoda and the Vrindavan people are going mad, and the Nagapatnis, meanwhile, are speaking philosophy. In the wrestling arena of Kamsa, everybody has a different feeling, but Krishna's in the center, and the feelings are not incompatible. They're not incompatible. They're not. I'm reminded also of Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. Was it Dwarka? No, Hastinapur. When the Hastinapur, the ladies got up on the rooftops and were wanting to see Krishna's entrance into the city, and they were talking among themselves. Ladies get together and they say, "Ooh." They're talking about Krishna, and they're what would you say? Not gossip, but their talk among one another was more profound than they knew more than the Vedas know. The Vedas only skirt around the subject of the personality of Godhead, and they went right to it. So their village talk, practically, they weren't villagers, they were city women, but they're Gramya Katha, it's like just talking about somebody, but because the somebody was Krishna, their prayers or their gossip, their talk was more profound than what the Vedas talk about. Trigunya Vishaya Veda. Vedas are talking about sacrifices and this and that, all topics related to the advancement of the three modes of nature. And the women of Hastinapur on the rooftops were speaking about the personal glories of the Supreme Personality of God. So their talk was more advanced.
did these mermaids or snake ladies or whatever they were know about things like the Chaturvyuha, Pradumna, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, Shankarshan, Krishna's parents? They we've never seen them like in Bhakti Shastri class or studying. I don't even know how they could study, or they don't have books down there in the water. So how do they know all
The
these
latest
things?
version of Kindle, the waterproof one.
Waterproof Kindle, okay.
They were personally, what is that? They'd reached the perfection of knowledge. Kanaman, Mam, Prapati. They were not ordinary souls. They get you get a Bhakti Shastri degree, Bhakti by Bob or something, but you can't take your degree in hand and say, all right, now I want entrance into the personal association of Krishna. So they don't even have a name for the degree that the Nagapatnis got. They came into the personal association of Krishna. So they were great devotees. How did the wives of the Brahmins know? The Brahmins didn't know. Their husbands, in spite of being great Vedic scholars and Brahmins, they were like mudhas. They thought that Krishna was manasham tanamashrit. They thought he was an ordinary human being. But the wives knew that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oh, what is that? Shanayati Ashu Vairagam Gyanam Jayadvaita. By devotional service, all knowledge is included. They didn't have to be great scholars. They didn't have to be great tapasvis. They didn't have to be great performers of Vedic rituals. They'd already surpassed that. So that, what position they're in. Even also we see that uneducated people may know more than the greatest scholars. They're great scholars. And they speculate and they think this and they think that, and they're clueless. They may not even know that there's God, or they think that God is impersonal, or they think there are many gods, or they think that the cosmic manifestation comes from matter. Satyam apratishtam te. There's nothing, no God in control. Jagadahurisha. In spite of being, PhD scientists, Nobel Prize winners, all this, and still they're on the level of fools when it comes to spirit. They don't even know who they are, what to speak of knowing who God is. I think matter is everything. There's no soul. And we were on a walk one time with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada mentions this incident also somewhere in one of his books or lectures. We were on a walk one day in Vrindavan with Prabhupada. His morning walk. And a whole batch of sannyasis. I was a brahmachari back then. And we were walking through one field back in the days when there were fields in Raman Reti. There were just fields. So we were walking through one field, and a farmer came out. And farmer means, one of these, like an old man with gnarled hands and permanently gray cloth, a real man of the earth, real farmer. And he came and just prostrated himself in front of Prabhupada and all the devotees. And he said in Hindi that it's essentially, it's our great fortune that you've come to bless our field. He said it's Krishna's field, and you're, right, maybe, but the gist of it was that you're Krishna's devotees and you've come and blessed our field, so we're so fortunate. So he was just a farmer, perhaps illiterate, certainly not highly educated, but he was so far ahead of all these great, Oxbridge scholars and great learned men of this world. So how did he reach that point? It was his great fortune. Living in Vrindavan, and then getting Prabhupada's association, and then recognizing who Prabhupada was essentially, and who he himself was. So how fortunate and advanced he was, in spite of no education, really. So it's possible. Yes. I don't remember Prabhupada saying very much on the occasion, but later he mentioned it on I've seen either in a book or conversation. Prabhupada basically
He
told.
wasn't a physicist, but he knew what matters.
Hmm?
He wasn't a physicist, but he knew what matters.
He knew what matters, but he wasn't a physicist,
No, he wasn't.
But he knew what matters.
Yes. Thank you.
Maharaj, I had heard that Prabhupada said this is the culture, something like that in those terms. This past time when I heard from someone, he was saying that.
Yeah, Prabhupada said if it had been America, he would have come with his rifle. Get out. This is private property.
Yes, something like that. Okay, Maharaj, I had a question. This mood of anxiety for Krishna, Krishna is in danger, or this mood of separation that Krishna will go away, is it a feature of this bhav, this way of feeling about Krishna? Is it specifically for the material world, or is this bhav there in the spiritual world also? Because I don't know spiritual world has demons or not, or Krishna is in danger.
But the feeling is there. They don't have to have the actual demons, but the feeling is there that we have to. One of the feelings of parental love is protection. We have to protect Krishna. So even Krishna is never in danger. This world or that world, what's staying. Therefore, Balaram's, just looking on and smiling because he knows what's the danger to Krishna from some water snake. But everyone else is in total anxiety. So Yogamaya expands. The Yogamaya acts in such a way as to bring forth these feelings. So these are features of the spiritual world. Srila B.R. Sridhar Maharaj one time said that there are no demons in the spiritual world, but the demons are like posters. Or there's like rumors of demons.
I heard that Prabhupada said that Kalia went to the Fiji Islands, and that's why they have Krishna Kalia. Did you know anything about that?
Yeah, there was, when Prabhupada went to Fiji, there was apparently some legend that there was a snake in one of these islands, and there's some, I don't know the content of it all. But from there, Prabhupada took it that Kalia might have gone there. And of course, now Kalia is there in our temple. So on those grounds, Prabhupada installed Krishna Kalia. Then there was some other occasion where in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, Kalia was seen again in the Jamuna, Ganga, Jamuna, and and Krishna was seen to be dancing on Kalia's woods. So some people were really excited, and they came and told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Krishna had come back and he's dancing on Kalia.
I was gonna mention that, Guru Maharaj, when you were talking about village gossip is higher. I was gonna say that village gossip was actually the highest, and Mahaprabhu smiled because the Saraswati Vak acted, and they were looking at Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They said, "We have seen Krishna himself," and he is Krishna himself. So their words are true in that sense. But yeah, the village gossip is higher than any Vedas. We have seen Krishna, and Mahaprabhu is there.
Of course, for those who haven't read it, or those who have, turned out that what they were seeing was just a fishing boat out in the water, and the lights seemed to be the jewels on Kalia's hoods, or so on.
And the Brahmin serving Mahaprabhu, he said, "I want to go see Krishna." And Mahaprabhu slapped him.
Something else, yes.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, you mentioned, we were talking about how Krishna created all these different emotions in the Brajvasis to increase their affection or love for him. Could we say that Krishna does the same thing to us, like in the the Nectar of Devotion, it says the waves of bhakti, it's always coming up and then down. In our conditioned state, sometimes we feel ups and downs, and most of the time, I hope we go, closer to Krishna and more affection is developing because we see how he's reciprocating with us. Could we also consider that as waves of devotion in that sense, or is it a different thing compared to? Of course, it's different,
but yeah, Krishna's also. It's not that Krishna only reciprocates with devotees, perfected devotees in Vrindavan, but even with the practicing devotees, Krishna arranges things in such a way that sometimes we feel totally discouraged. I'll never be able to do anything. I've been out here all day and I've only sold, one small book. Nobody's taking. I'm useless. Oh Krishna, what's the use of me? And then somebody comes and buys a whole set of Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita or whatever. So the feelings can go like that, and the devotee, both ways. He thinks, oh Krishna, what's wrong with it? And he thinks, oh Krishna, you're so the devotee becomes enlivened both ways. In Prabhupada's final pastimes, that also came out. The intense hopes and hopelessness that the devotees were feeling, as Prabhupada's condition would seem to be miraculously improved, and then hopeless, and then this, and then that, and then the kind of feelings that arose when Prabhupada wanted to go on a bullock cart ride, and then factions arising among the devotees, and they're practically ready to throw bricks at one another. It's just, and so on. And Bhavananda said to Prabhupada, you just, you do this to us. You put us in so much anxiety, and then, or basically said, just I forget whether he said it or it was implicit, that, this just brings out such feelings of love. And Prabhupada said, this is my duty. It's my duty. So how that affection for Prabhupada was being churned in those final days. Different kinds of feelings. But all on that central point of love for Krishna's devotee, love for Srila Prabhupada. Well, we didn't finish the chapter. I don't think we will unless we go over time. So
to continue tomorrow.
we can continue tomorrow from here. We can have a little bit more kirtan. Looked like you had something to say.
I just wanted to ask in this regard, Maharaj, can we also say that Krishna is acting in such a way to take out the material poison
That also
from our heart?
We'll hear more about that in the prayers to come. Definitely, we can see that. Just one thing more from my side is I wanted to thank you, Sachi Devi, for the Ras Purnima program. And I don't know who else was involved. Everybody. So thank you all for, I heard the program was, again, a wonderful success. So thank you all for making that happen. And who's leading kirtan? You're leading kirtan again? Someone else is leading kirtan?